Both U.S. presidential candidates are vowing to carry out comprehensive reform of America's immigration system if elected. One of the thorniest issues in that area is what to do with the estimated 12 million undocumented immigrants who live in the United States. Deportations have increased significantly under President Obama, who says the strategy is targeting criminal immigrants. Obama is also credited with taking a bold step this year in dealing with the children of undocumented immigrants, a group that has become known as the Dreamers. America's Now contributing correspondent Craig Mauro reports from Chicago on how the prospects for one segment of this particular population are brighter than before.
And maybe possibly my senior year.
Michel Garcia grew up in a middle-class suburb outside the city of Chicago, where he excelled in high school, graduating early and with honors. In his junior year, though, a time when American high school students applied to universities, he faced a reality most of his friends did not.
Being an undocumented student, it was tough because I saw my friends going off into college, and I knew that I wanted that too for my future.
Garcia's parents migrated to the United States from Mexico illegally when he was 5 years old, making him an undocumented immigrant also.
I have vague memories of it, going through the desert and my mom telling me to duck.
Even though he talks, acts, and looks like an American, Garcia has no social security number, the national ID used for most official transactions. While you don't need a social security card to get into college, you do need one when applying for a bank loan or scholarship funds.
Most of the scholarships that are given out that say need-based, they're based on your parents' income, which is determined by your social security. I knew that I was an undocumented student and I wasn't going to be able to get financial aid, let alone loans from the government. My parents didn't make nowhere near enough to be able to pay for a portion of tuition.
There are hundreds of thousands of young people in the United States who are thought to be in situations similar to Garcia's. Children of the estimated 12 million undocumented immigrants here, brought across the border illegally by no choice of their own. U.S. authorities can legally deport them back to their countries of birth at any moment. With the goal of overhauling immigration law, President Barack Obama introduced legislation known as the DREAM Act in 2009 to allow certain children of immigrants to apply for temporary residence. The bill did not make it through Congress, so Obama took the unusual step this summer of signing an executive decree that would grant similar status.
These are young people who study in our schools, they play in our neighborhoods, they're friends with our kids. They pledge allegiance to our flag. They are Americans in their heart, in their minds, in every single way but one, on paper.
Successful applicants will receive a 2-year work visa, although the decree does not clarify what happens after those expire. Obama called the program a stopgap measure until broader reform is enacted. And last August, just 2 months after the president's announcement, the federal government began accepting applications for what is known as deferred action for childhood arrivals. Thousands of young undocumented people came forward, signing up for assistance at events like this one in Chicago, effectively admitting to the government that they have no legal papers. Under the program, anyone under the age of 31 who arrived in the U.S. before turning 16 has no criminal record and can prove they are either in school or graduated from high school can apply for the 2-year work permit. Rudy Lozano and the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights have led the efforts statewide to assist applicants, known as Dreamers, a term coined from the original legislation.
There has been excitement by the opportunity to be able to work legally, to not have to be worried about deportation, for students going to school, for families, for parents. So it's been very, very good in terms of the positive response. On the other hand, there's also the fear. Giving up as much information as people are giving up to the U.S. Immigration Services is something to worry about. So there's a lot of reluctance as well for people who are applying. They're a little nervous about the upcoming elections, to be honest, about what happens if someone gets elected that's not in favor of this program.
The numbers vary depending upon which organization that you ask, but it is believed that there are between 1 million and 1.7 million young people in the United States who qualify for deferred action. As of October 10th, the U.S. Immigration Service says that it has received 180,000 applications, and of those, nearly 4,500 have been approved already, and another 165,000 are being processed. Despite the uncertainty hanging over the program, politicians who support it insist it will be very difficult to undo completely now that it has begun.
I mean, from a practical point of view, how do you end a million and a half young people getting work permits and simply tell them the next day, you're going to deport them? You think the line is long today? Imagine what kind of line and what kind of cry would come out from a community if you try to take. Look, there are things that you just can't disrupt, you just can't change. You can't change your mind. This is one of those things, you can't change your mind.
Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney has repeatedly said he would veto the DREAM Act if it ever came to his desk as president. For several weeks after the deferred action decree, he did not say how he would handle the issue if elected, leading some to believe he would rescind the work permits. At the beginning of October, however, Romney told the Denver Post newspaper, "The people who have received the special visa that the president has put in place, which is a 2-year visa, should expect that the visa would continue to be valid. I'm not going to take away something that they've purchased." Romney says that if elected, he will pursue immigration reform that he says would include a permanent solution for dreamers, and he would accomplish that before the current deferred action visas expire.
Now, in the midst of a difficult re-election campaign, President Obama created what he calls a stopgap measure. Those are his words. For children who were brought here illegally through no fault of their own. Instead of playing politics with these children, I will pursue permanent immigration reform, and I'll start by ensuring that those who serve in our military have the opportunity to become legal permanent residents of the country they fought to defend.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Regardless of who wins the election, immigrant rights activists see deferred action as an incomplete first step in what must be broader reform.
¿Qué es lo que queremos? ¡Licencias! ¿Qué es lo que queremos? ¡Licencias! ¿Cuándo las queremos?
The same groups that lobby for that are often also involved in mobilizing citizens in the Latino community to register to vote. For example, at events like this one in Chicago. Vicente Del Real is a 23-year-old community organizer who has also applied for deferred action. His parents brought him from Mexico to the Chicago area on a tourist visa when he was 15 years old, and he never returned.
You know what? It's 8 years now living the same way. Something is wrong about you. Know something is wrong about you being here, but you don't necessarily understand. When he came to me was when I got my driver's permit, and driver said that everybody will get their license afterwards. I'm like, and I went to the chief, like, why can I get it? And he's like, oh yeah, you can get it. I'm sorry, you just need to give me your social security number. I'm like, oh. So I went back and I'm like, do I need to ask my mom if I have a social security number? I'm like, I think I know that I don't have one.
Despite not having a driver's license or U.S. ID, Del Real drives out into the community most days to educate Latinos about voting or to promote immigration reform. If the police ever pull him over for a traffic violation, he could conceivably be deported from the country.
There is that fear, you know, when you see someone being pulled over. At the end, it's about your dignity, who you are. It's about being the best you can, and about sending a message to everyone that you can be as good as anyone else.
Porque hoy están los jóvenes, pero mañana tenemos que garantizar que sus padres también tengan la oportunidad.
Latinos are now the largest minority in the U.S. population, and as voter registration efforts like these increase, the group's power as a voting bloc will only become greater, and the pressure for immigration reform will as well.
Deferred action is a great step forward, but we need much more. We want to fight for all of our families, for the parents of children who are applicable for deferred action. We want to fight for driver's license in the state of Illinois and across the country. We want a complete, comprehensive immigration reform of the immigration system as it exists today.
Critics say Obama's deferred action decree this summer was merely an attempt to garner votes for Tuesday's election. Some states are pursuing their own reforms. Maryland voters will decide on Tuesday whether to allow children of undocumented immigrants to qualify for lower tuition at state colleges. A similar law was passed in Illinois in 2003. Michel Garcia eventually found a way to attend the University of Illinois, finding a scholarship that did not require U.S. citizenship. He is now studying biochemistry and plans to become a doctor.
One of the biggest things is in undocumented students, the networking and having that courage to say that you're undocumented and looking for that support network.
If Garcia is granted deferred action, he intends to find a paying job while he goes to school.
Once I do get that, I actually would like to get a job and being able to help my family, bringing an income to the table, especially since I have a younger sister.
Vicente del Real says he plans to pursue a bachelor's degree in political science to further the career he has begun.
I didn't took the decision to come over here, to come to this country. And I learned to love and know this country as my home country. Because just as I had my life in Mexico 8 years ago, I have my life here now. Right? I love the people that I know. I love my community. I try to do whatever I can to make my community better, just as I used to do in Mexico 8 years ago.
Dreamers like those in Craig Mauro's story are examples that President Obama could use in his argument for deferred action, that the applicants will end up making, as he put it, extraordinary contributions to American society. But whoever is elected president on Tuesday will have to tackle the unresolved issue that now lingers. What happens once their 2-year work visas expire?